Why I don't go to the Philippines or in lakes anymore. About 4 years ago I took a vacation to the Philippines. Now let me say that it is truly a beautiful place and I'd almost 100% take another vacation to the Philippines, but I can't shake that I'd be in the domain of the mountain. You know, Mount Pinatubo? The one that erupted in 1991 and killed 740 people? Anyways, 4 years ago I decided to take a vacation to the Philippines due to my stress at my job. I had enough vacation days to go somewhere and still use them as sick days if I ran out of sick days. When I got off the plane and had gotten to my hotel, I checked into my hotel and went to my room. My room looked like your stereotypical family vacation. 2 beds with white sheets, pillows, and blankets, and a brown comforter at the bottom of the bed. There was also a television that only had kid channels that were mostly in Filipino. There was also a mini fridge, which was really 3/4 of a fridge. I was glad that the hotel I was staying at served food. It was a long flight from the New England to the Philippines, so I had decided to sleep and also decided what every time I woke up was the time I would get my stuff unpacked and go find something to do. When I did wake up it was around 5:34 a.m., so I got my things unpacked after waking myself up with some water, and then went out to find something to do. I decided to head to what looked like a cafe for some coffee. Turns out splashing water on your face will only temporarily prevent fatigue. In the cafe, I ordered some coffee and waited for the waiter to come back with my Filipino coffee. While I was waiting, a group of Filipino college students came up to me and asked me a question, and thank God they spoke fluent English. And I know it sounds a bit wrong, but it was really nice to have someone who was not a television screen speak fluent English to me. Hey there! We are going hiking for a fundraiser for our school. You wanna come? Asked the female student. It took me a minute to respond because of how open and cheery the student was. I almost wanted to praise her for being so open. Sure, I'm just waiting on some coffee. Care to join? I said in return. She looks at me with a grin and took a seat next to me at my table. The rest of the group sat down with me, and we talked as we waited for my coffee. So, what are you raising money for? I asked. Well, our school is in pretty poor condition, and we want to help the administration as much as possible. She answered. So how exactly are you collecting the money? I asked. One of the male students answered, well, we just tell people, the more money we get, the higher we climb. Yikes, that seems a bit dangerous. I replied. Indeed, it is, but we did receive a lot of donations from the people of this town. The second male responded. Well, what exactly are we climbing? I asked. We are climbing the great mountain of Pinatubo, replied the female student, throwing her hands in the air for dramatic effect. I really wish she hadn't done that because she nearly hit the waitress right in the face with her hand. Thankfully, she only flinched and didn't drop my coffee. After a bit more talking, we had come up with a plan: go to the mountain, climb to the crater, and swim in the crater for a bit so we could cool off for the journey back. After I had finished my coffee and paid the cafe, we left for the journey. After about a half an hour later, we had arrived at Zambales. After we got out of the car, we started toward the mountain. Most of the way toward the mountain was us just joking. Except the fourth member. He hadn't said a single word the entire time I was in the group. I asked the female student and she said, oh, he doesn't speak good English. Not to mention he's pretty shy. I was kinda hard getting him to even go with us because of how much of an introvert he is. Well, that's fine with me. I honestly would take 3 out of 4 than none. After we reached the mountain, we start to prepare. We stretched, put on safety equipment, and put on backpacks. The way up the mountain was excruciating. I had never really climbed that much in my life. On the way up we all learned each other's names. The male who first talked to me was Nimuel. The lady who first talked to me was Lunton. The second male was Crisanto. And finally, the man who could not speak good English was Rodrigo. About halfway up the mountain, Nimuel brought up an interesting topic. Do you guys know that some people have died on this mountain? Lunton responded saying, duh, it's a mountain. People can die at any time on a mountain. That answer made feel a bit uneasy. Nimuel then said, no, I mean in the lake. 2 guys drowned in 1995. The cause of death for all of them was supposedly a heart attack while swimming. Well, where are they buried? Lunton asked. Nimuel answered saying that's the scary part, they won't let anyone even see the bodies. Rodrigo was obviously very unsettled by all of this, but still stayed quiet. I think we can all say that we were also very unsettled after the conversation had ended. After about an hour of climbing, we finally reached the top. Oh goodness, look at that view! Lunton exclaimed. She was right, the view was pretty. Okay, now let's take a few pictures for proof, then let's take a swim, said Cristano. First, we all took a quick breather, then we took some pictures. After we took some pictures, we all took off our clothes. Thank God Lunton suggested we keep our bathing suits on under our clothes, so we don't have to strip naked and change. So, who's ready to swim? Exclaimed Cristano. Everyone but Rodrigo was excited about going into the water. Lunton said something in Filipino and then Rodrigo shook his head. Lunton shrugged and signaled us to go into the water. He must be still shaken by the story, I thought. When I got into the water, it was weird. Like it felt like water, but it felt really off. I don't really know how to put it, but it did not feel right. I brushed the odd water off thinking it was just because I had climbed a little over 1,000 meters. We swam and splashed water at each other for a good 15 minutes before getting bored and feeling like we were clean enough to head back down. On our way out of the lake, I swear I saw something underwater. It must have just been some type of bug. But when Nimuel was dragged underwater, I didn't think it was a bug anymore. I swam as fast as possible, not knowing what was going on behind me. Thankfully, Lunton didn't bother to help Nimuel either, as she thought it was some type of sick joke, but we didn't think that it wasn't a joke until he didn't come back up. Lunton, being the supposed brave one, went over to see if Nimuel was alright, and trust me when I tell me and Cristano tried to stop her, but she didn't stop. Rodrigo was already packing our bags when Lunton was dragged into and underwater. She didn't even have a chance to get into the water when she was dragged. We had to go. This thing, whatever it was, dragging them underwater, killing them. We put on the necessities to climb down to the nearest flat part of the mountain where we could rest. As we were putting on our climbing equipment, Rodrigo was, probably, cursing in Filipino. We were almost out of crater when a tentacle came out of the water and grabbed Rodrigo. I managed to hold on to him, but the thing pulled so hard Rodrigo's hand was either pulled off or broken. All I know was that he was pulled really hard with me still holding him, and I was running for my life. Me and Cristano were on our way down the mountain. When we finally got to a pretty flat spot on the mountain, we got the rest of our equipment on. But we only got our helmets and safety rope attached when we saw tentacles going down the mountain towards us. How did it know where we were? The water, I thought. It had to be the water, that's why it didn't feel right. I warned Cristano and we started to make our way down the mountain. We managed to reach the bottom of the mountain before that thing could catch us. We guessed that the monster wasn't able to reach us at the bottom. We ran right to the car after catching our breath. We didn't know what to do. The police wouldn't believe us. The locals wouldn't believe us. So, we went back to my hotel since it was the closets. We entered my room and immediately turned on the news. Apparently through the whole hour or so we drove home, they had already started covering the story. The news reporter said, and for our viewers who are just joining us now, we have some very sad news as 3 teenagers have apparently drowned in the crater lake of Mount Pinatubo. While we asked if we could see the crime scene, officers told us that we had to leave immediately. We will be following this story for the next few days. Any new information released to the public will be report. Cristano turned off the news, cutting off the reporter. I can't believe they are fucking dead. It wasn't supposed to end like this. He spoke. I didn't expect him to say that. We couldn't do anything. You saw how strong that thing was. I said, trying to comfort him. How did that thing not go for them either? The water must have been tracking us, but Rodrigo was pulled into the water as well. That means the beast can sense anything near the lake and anything covered in the water. Cristano said in anger. Something isn't right, but we will have to figure it out in the morning. It's getting late. And we've had one hell of a day. He agreed and fell asleep almost immediately. I didn't even realize how late it was. It didn't feel that long. Maybe it was longer? I don't know. The next morning, I woke up to no Cristano, but a note from him. The note read, "Dear friend, while it was fun while it lasted, we both know what happened, and if this is what I think it is, we cannot stay together, or else consequences will be dire. I thank you deeply for trying to help my friends and for attempting to comfort me when I was upset last night. Your dear friend, Cristano." I never heard from him again. After I read the note, I packed my belongings and left to reschedule my flight for that day. And I did manage to leave that day. I haven't talked about it since, in fear of people thinking I'm insane. Please, for the love of God, tell me I'm not insane. Anyway, I beg of you to heed my warning. Do not swim in the lake of the crater of Mount Pinatubo. It is extremely dangerous, and without friends, you could have no chance of escape.